After a crazy weekend at the Buffalo Downs, in which we saw 4 attempts at a green-white checkered in round 1, the ARLA Elite Series presented by Smash Beer now heads over to the Karl Superstore of Riverside for the Karl Superstores 225. The 5th mile oval that was laid out inside the store is the shortest track that ARLA has ever raced on. We will also be running 3 races instead of 2 because of the limited space in the pit lane that they've set up. I think I should point out that this Karl's is what was built on top of the old Riverside Raceway grounds after that track closed in the late 1980s. I know that a lot of fans look at that with a certain degree of bitterness, but hey, racing has returned to Riverside in some capacity. Moving on to qualifying, AJ Young and Kevin Monroe of M&J Racing failed to set a time. Young stuffed it into the tire wall off of turn 2 on his first lap, while Monroe spun and stalled the car. They will both be starting in the rear of the field in their respective rounds, but we have fairly short fields since, again, we're running 3 races, so we'll have to see if they can make their way forward. And on the pole for round 1 would be Namimura, car 39, carrying the Karl Superstores colors this week. Karl Superstores is in a partnership with Kurt Walker Motorsports, so I'm sure they're proud that one of their drivers got that car on the pole, but Libby Bell, car 24 for Power Steering Incorporated, got the jump as there's trouble already. John Hawks, car 114, got turned around and spun into one of the tires lining the insides of the corners by Trey Ashby in car 12, and that's a lot of damage to that 114 car. Those tires are bolted to the floor. They're not going anywhere. Hawks, however, is going back behind the wall as Jack Dempsey in car 41 got turned around as well after contact with Laura Cyrus in car 42. There is Andrew Hector in the blue 04 car. Jack Dempsey gets going and carries enough speed to get back around the 04, coming back to the caution. Libby Bell continues to lead on the restart. Harry Esanola, car 45, all over the back of the 24 car, and almost turns her around off of turn 2. Ashley Tucker caught in a 3-wide situation with Ike Durbin and Trey Ashby, and that results in Durbin and Tucker going into the wall. Apparently, Ike Durbin was not paying much attention to his right side as we see Libby Bell headed into the pit lane with a cut tire. That's going to set her way back in the field after she spent the first part of this race leading. This hands the lead over to Harry Enola, who broke a 3-race winless streak last week at Buffalo Downs. He captured the victory by sneaking his way through the field as everyone was busy wrecking each other during the 4 green-white checkered attempts. A record high number of attempts ever since the green-white checkered rule was implemented earlier this year. And now we're looking at Leslie Riggs, who was leading before all those green-white checkers last week and ultimately lost big as the field came bearing down on her. Andre Kinasa, car 78, trying to get around Dan Leckleiter for the 8th spot, and that results in both of those cars going into the wall. Kinasa is done for the day. And coming back to the caution, Libby Bell is tired of looking at the rear end of that 04 of Andrew Hector and spins him around as they take the caution. The officials would not take any action for this. Of course, the officials very lax about lapped cars getting turned around by the leaders. Hector was the last car on the lead lap on the restart. Enola gets by him without a problem, but Moore in second place gets held up by the 04, allowing Leslie Riggs to sneak by. Richard Scott, car 27, up to 3rd now. A very good start to this race for Richard Scott in that 27. Trey Ashby, who was involved in that big mess on lap 1, gets put into the wall after washing up into the 42 of Laura Cyrus, who was also involved in the first lap shenanigans. Both Ashby and Cyrus will be done for the day as Enola continues to lead. Richard Scott now having a look under the 50 of Leslie Riggs. Enola coming back around turn 4. He's built up quite the gap. Michael Madrigal in the Pie car has a problem and slows up in front of Namimura, who wastes no time in sending him out towards the wall. The caution would not come out as Madrigal was well off the racing line, but that Pie car's definitely got a problem and Madrigal would have to pit. Namimura, after starting on the pole, now finds herself down in 8th place. Dan Leckleiter in front of her is not racing for her for position. Up in Momagny about a month ago, Namimura snapped her own 3-year winless streak, as now we're looking at Joseph Howard in car 17, who is up to 3rd and being held up by Andrew Hector, the 04. starting to create a bit of a freight train behind him as Richard Scott and Jack Dempsey looking to take advantage. Scott to the inside of the 17. Dempsey trying to make it 3 wide. Libby Bell sticking her nose in there. The contact between the 24 and the 41 car as Dempsey just barely misses that tire right there. Ike Durbin doesn't miss the tire after being turned around by Namimura. Working lap 35 right now. Ike Durbin goes out of the race for what will already be our 5th caution of the day. Harry Enola continues to lead the race. Leslie Riggs, his former teammate, all over him. Of course, Enola used to drive for Riggs Motorsports before that team merged with M&J Racing, and Enola was picked up by Peter Irving Gray Sports. Andrew Hector is setting lap times in the 14-second bracket, which may sound fast, but not when you consider that the leaders are setting times in the 11-second range, as we have a wreck between Michael Madrigal and Dan Lecklater and Namimura. However, this was way back in the field, so there was no caution for it. Leslie Riggs running second, now being held up by Hector. Howard has a look under the 50. Contact between the 17 and the 04 sends Hector sliding up in front of Riggs, and now Riggs is going to lose a lot of ground as she just clipped the 04 car, and Joseph Howard's going to get away. I don't think Riggs is going to be too happy about that, but I highly doubt that was planned on Howard's part. Riggs was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Libby Bell, after cutting her tire down, has made her way up to the 5th spot. Richard Scott back to 6th now after a great start to the race. However, the 27 car has fallen off a little bit, as we see Bell and Hector now getting into a bit of rough housing, leaving Hector in the clutches of Richard Scott. Scott now getting around the 04 and trying to leave Hector in the hands of Harry Enola like a hot potato, but Enola will have none of it and immediately gets by the 04. Enola now trying to work on putting Richard Scott a lap down, but he's not succeeding at that at the moment. Joseph Howard now dealing with 2 of the lapped cars of Dan Lecklater and Andrew Hector. Leslie Riggs trying to catch back up to the 17 car. For the past 3 years in a row, Joseph Howard has won in the season opener, but he hasn't been able to win any other races as he now gets held up by the 04. Leslie Riggs goes right on by for second. There's the other lapped car of Daniel Lecklater, as Joseph Howard expresses his frustrations even more with the 04. There you see Jack Dempsey, the 41, going by for 4th place. Richard Scott not having any more to do with Andrew Hector. He turns him right around as he encounters the 04 again. There wouldn't be a caution for this, as you see Leslie Riggs and Joseph Howard go by well behind Harry S. Enola at this point, as Libby Bell and Jack Dempsey go at it for 4th place. Both of these drivers have made great recoveries today. Bell had to pit for that cut tire, and Dempsey was turned around on the first lap of the race. Bell's going to take the position from Dempsey. Bell has already won 2 races this year, one at Mosport and the other at Buffalo Downs, where she dominated, as Harry S. Enola, once he took the lead, he never looked back. Enola comes across the line to take his 2nd win of the year, just a couple weeks after his first win in 3 years. Enola, the former Marine drill sergeant, could be on a roll here as he claims 111 points for this race. Only 6 cars finished on the lead lap. Richard Scott, the last of them. First car off the lead lap, Dan Lecklater, who was 5 laps down. Andrew Hector claims the high climber bonus by finishing 8th, his first career top 10 finish. And everybody behind Hector failed to finish the race. However, this race wasn't such a smash fest after half of the field was eliminated. And now we move on to round number 2, where Ritt Tyler, the defending series champion, has taken the pole, but Jim Hayes in car 77 gets a great jump over him at the start, just like we saw at the start of round 1. Hayes takes the lead off of turn 2, as there is, once again, trouble on the first lap. We're looking at Lucas Sweeney started in 8th place, as Allie Riggs, I think, got shoved up into the side of the 8, and that's a huge wad of cars sitting against the tires off the exit of turn 2. Just too many cars going for too small of a space right there. Hayes leads on the restart. Ritt Tyler crosses to the inside of him, coming through turns 1 and 2. Tyler really wants to lead back here. Herbie Finkelberg, car 66, running in 3rd place, as Ritt Tyler just barely edges out Hayes at the line to claim 1 bonus point on top of the 5 points he got for taking the pole. Herbie Finkelberg in the 66 is looking to stick his nose in there as well, but Hayes clears him, so Finkelberg doesn't have the opportunity at the moment. Kiriki Itsuno, car 707, fighting Lev Azarov for 4th place as she pinches the 82 car into the wall. Itsuno evidently not paying any attention to her mirrors, as she now leaves Azarov in the clutches of Kelly Posadas and Bigsby Foot. AJ Young, car 15, gets turned into the inside wall by Jessica Graham in car 59, and then he gets rear-ended by Rachel Rainsford in the 71, as Lucas Sweeney now decides to not play nice with the 15. AJ Young is playing tennis ball to everybody on this lap, as he clearly has a problem with that 15 car. He started last after crashing on his qualifying lap as Kelly Posadas pushes up into the 82 of Lev Azarov. Azarov then hooks her off at turn 2 and turns her around in front of the whole field. Scott Dalitz and Kyle Gaffigan clip the 88 car. That will be our second caution of this race. Rip Tyler continues to lead on the restart. Herbie Finkelberg now up to 2nd. Jim Hayes and Kiriki Itsuno fighting for 3rd. Allie Riggs, car 19, is going to get turned around by Ramsey Cockiner off of turn 2. Scott Dalitz gets turned around by the 07 of Kyle Gaffigan right behind her. That's going to be caution number 3 here on lap 17. Riggs was running in 9th that last lap. She now comes across to take the caution in 14th. Kiriki Itsuno, after the restart, finds herself in a 4-wide situation. She gets turned around by Bigsby Foot, and that 707 car backs into the wall, so we see Bigsby Foot smashed up against that tire there. So after putting the 707 in the wall, the 14 gets turned into the tire by Lev Azarov in the 82. Coming back to the caution, Allie Riggs is right on the bumper of Kyle Gaffigan, who is being held up by Derek Dudding. Riggs turned Gaffigan to the inside, and Gaffigan, well, immediately let her know what he thought of that. That's rather uncharacteristic of the normally cheerful Gaffigan. Britt Tyler continues to lead on the restart, Herbie Finkelberg 2nd, and Jim Hayes 3rd. Finkelberg having a look to the inside of the 16, but he can't get anything done off of turn 2, as Tyler now tries to build up a gap. Here's Robert Nelson in car 9 going by Nick Azure for 4th place. Azure trying the crossover, but that 9 car is looking very strong off the corner as Nelson secures the 4th position. Robert Nelson has 2 top 5s this season, and he is now looking for a 3rd. Jason Bates is still in the number 2 for Pearson Sweeney Motorsports in place of the injured Alex Carson. He will hand the car back over to Carson once the Ring of Fire Tour starts, as Bates will be headed to Japan with the rest of the Kurt Walker Motorsports bunch, as you see him battling with his teammate Lucas Sweeney for the 12th spot. Both of the Pearson Sweeney cars have damage, and we got a caution out as Derek Dudding gets turned around by the leader, Rip Tyler, headed into turn 1. No, Nick Azure just piles into the 68 there. Azure not really paying any attention at all, and that's going to result in yet another DNF for the 46 car. However, I've heard that FAC Motorsports is going to have a major sponsor coming on board starting at the next race, so maybe all those wrecked cars are going to be just a little bit less painful on their pocketbooks. Rick Tyler continues to lead on the restart, but we've got another caution as Lev Azarov gets turned around by Allie Riggs. Azarov was running in 6th at the time, and this damage is going to take Azarov out of the race. Allie Riggs up to 5th now in car number 19. She hasn't made too many friends in her march back up through the field. And we have another caution as Kyle Gaffigan and Scott Dalitz get together. They go hard into the tire wall there. Lucas Sweeney was also involved, but Gaffigan and Dalitz clearly got the worst of that. However, Gaffigan would be the only driver to drop out from this after the restart. Here comes Rachel Rainsford making a charge for 3rd place. Rainsford has won 2 races this year, but now she finds herself in a 3-wide situation with Ramsey Cockiner and Herbie Finkelberg, but that got settled quickly. Lucas Sweeney now going 3-wide with Allie Riggs and Jim Hayes, and Hayes gets stuffed into the wall. And then Riggs hooked Sweeney into the wall immediately afterwards. Sweeney was pushing up the track a bit in 1 and 2. That sent Hayes into the wall, and apparently Riggs didn't like that one bit. Hayes and Sweeney are both going to go out of the race, And after the restart, we have a battle for the lead between Robert Nelson and Rick Tyler. Nelson, the Australian rookie, going for his first career win. He's been close a couple times this season, even though the Spannerhead Racing team is rather underfunded. Sponsor decals are very lacking on that 9 car, but Nelson's going to go right on by the 16 for the lead of the race. Herbie Finkelberg, car 66, in the Speed Vision car owned by David Krikorian, looking to take advantage. AJ Young in car 15 has been off the pace all day after crashing in qualifying, but with all the attrition that's been happening, he's knocking on the door of his first top 10 finish in his career. Young has largely stayed out of trouble today, aside from that one lap where about 3 people were trying to put him in the wall. Robert Nelson trying to get by the 19 of Riggs to put her a lap down. He slides the car, and Rick Tyler sticks his nose in there, 3 wide. Riggs is not giving an inch, although she really should. The leaders finally clear her. Tyler still under the 9 car, Riggs sticking her nose back in there, and I think there was contact between the 9 and the 19. Riggs still fighting these guys like she's battling for the win with them. You'd think that owning her own car would make her drive a bit more carefully, but evidently not. Oh, she puts Nelson in the wall! Allie Riggs has just put Robert Nelson in the wall after Nelson was running in 2nd place, and Nelson's going to lose several positions. The crowd booed Riggs pretty relentlessly, and I'm not inclined to disagree with them. However, this caution would force a green-white checkered. The race was red flagged as the leaders hit the line. Rick Tyler continues to lead the race. Herbie Finkelberg in 2nd place. And there would only be 6 cars left on the lead lap at this point. So 6 cars will be taking the restart for this 2-lap shootout. Based on the crazy racing we've seen today, I have a feeling we're going to have multiple attempts to get this race in. But it's a clean start for Tyler as he jumps ahead of the field. Finkelberg under attack from Ramsey Cockner and Robert Nelson. I think I saw a bit of contact back there, but still clean as Rick Tyler takes the white flag. Robert Nelson trying to make up as many positions as he can. He almost gets taken out by Kiriki Itsuno. Ramsey Cockner almost taken out by the 707 car as well, but it was clear sailing for Rick Tyler, the defending series champion. The monkey is off his back as Tyler finally grabs his first win of the year. Tyler collects maximum points on his way to joining his teammates on the list of winners this season. Robert Nelson picks up a bonus point for leading 6 laps. He eventually finished 3rd. AJ Young finishes in 9th place to get his first career top 10 finish. Good job by AJ Young to stay out of trouble for most of the race. His former Team Bird teammate Derek Dudding finished in 11th place. I believe that's Dudding's career best finish as well. And now we move on to round number 3, where championship leader Taylor Brillen has taken the pole. She's failed to finish the last 2 races, including the Stars and Stripes 776 at Pocono. So she's definitely looking to make up some ground here. But once again, we have trouble on the first lap of the race. Eric Jackson and Jesus Ignacio Chavez III get turned around on the backstretch. This incident wasn't quite as destructive as the other first lap incidents we had in the previous 2 rounds, fortunately enough. Kevin Monroe, who started in last place, has to pit for a cut tire during this caution. Monroe will fall a lap down as Taylor Brillen continues to lead on the restart. She tries to build a gap over 2nd place Bobby Porteau, and in 3rd is Zach Webster in car 23. Good start to the race for him. Casey Campbell gets turned around as Ryan Matthews and Lucy Barnton make contact. Hazel May Pratt in car 97 gets a big chunk of that as well. Casey Campbell has quite a bit of damage to the rear of that Ford 22 car. While under caution, Taylor Brillen has to come into the pits like her teammate Kevin Monroe, but unfortunately this problem is going to be much more terminal as Brillen drops out of the race from the lead. This is going to be her 3rd DNF of the season and her 3rd consecutive DNF. She could very well be on a free fall through the championship standings as Bobby Porteau now inherits the lead. Zach Webster in 2nd place. Porteau trying to get by the lapped cars of Fretton, Barnton, and Matthews as Eric Jackson in car 7 now gets put into the wall He pushed up a bit into Daniel Diamond, taking the 89 car into the wall with him, as we see JW Lester in the 5-0 stopped on the inside. He blew his engine at the same time that this was happening. Lester comes to a stop on the inside of turn 3 as Cletus McGuffey doesn't really do him any favors right there. Of course, JW Lester, teammate to Harry Enola, who won round number 1. Porto continues to lead on the restart. Hazel May Fratton starting directly behind him. If you haven't noticed, the double file restarts have been abolished for this race because of how tight this track is. Seichu Dezhao now battles his teammate and car owner Kurt Walker for the 4th spot. These two are the last hopes for Kurt Walker Motorsports to get a finish in this race and to please their sponsor, Karl Superstores, as Barton Sandy gets turned around by Zachary Zins on the front stretch and smashes into one of the tires on the inside of turn 1. Bobby Porto continues to lead on the restart. Kevin Monroe on the inside trying to get his lap back. Monroe also almost pushes up into Porto, as you might have seen Dezhao put Zach Webster in the wall. Here's another look at that. Dezhao not really paying attention. That, or he was trying to give room to Lenore Scurry in the 102 there. You saw Ryan Matthews in the 116 almost smash into one of the tires on the inside. Zach Webster seems to have fallen off. That was a big lick into those tires. Webster is then going to hook Daniel Diamond on the backstretch. Diamond and Campbell then go head-on into that tire in turn 3. Zach Webster, a lot of damage to that 23 car as well. All 3 of those cars are going to drop out of the race. This is especially a shame for Zach Webster, who had such a great start to the race. Bobby Porto continues to lead. Seichu Dezhao running in 2nd place, trying to keep up with 74. Kurt Walker, car number 98, gets turned around by Lenore Scurry on the backstretch, but Walker quickly gets that car back going. The caution doesn't come out for this. Evidently, the officials weren't paying much attention. Walker was scored in 3rd place on that last lap. He is now down to 7th. And in 8th place is Cletus McGuffey, who, like Andrew Hector and AJ Young, has largely stayed out of trouble and has picked up positions due to attrition. Working lap 44 of 75, McGuffey has pretty safely locked himself into Team Burr's first top 10 of the year. Hazel May Fratton now makes contact with the 98 of Kurt Walker, puts herself and Walker into the wall. The caution doesn't come out again, and here comes Seichu Dezhao for the lead around Bobby Porto, as Porto was held up by the 97 and the 54. Fratton and Walker are both going to go out of the race, as Ryan Matthews now sneaks around Bobby Porto for 2nd. I believe Ryan Matthews' best finish in the series was a 4th place when he made his debut back in 2012. In the meantime, Seichu Dezhao tries to build his gap over the rest of his competitors. As a rookie in 2009, Dezhao won 2 races as well as the rookie shootout. He set the record for youngest winner in the ARLA Elite Series presented by Smash Beer. However, he's done pretty much nothing since then. He got himself sacked from Tom Delgado Racing, but eventually landed a ride at Kurt Walker Motorsports. Jesus Ignacio Chavez III is running around in 6th place in the Farce Modified. Chavez is currently the last car on the lead lap, but on paper, this is going to be a very good result for him. Lucy Barnton now trying to battle Lenore Scurry for the 4th place as they encounter the lapped cars of Eric Jackson and Cletus McGuffey. Barnton is another one of those drivers who's on a free fall through the standings. She needs a good result soon, and fortunately for her, it looks like she's going to get that today. Bobby Porto still running in 3rd and losing ground to the 116 of Ryan Matthews. Porto was on the verge of winning this race after all of the bad luck he's had this season until lapped cars intervened in the favor of Seichu Dezhao, who now holds a pretty big lead over Ryan Matthews, coming around the final 2 corners to take the white flag. Dezhao as a driver has been quite rejuvenated this year. Even though his finishes don't show it, his equipment has failed him numerous times. Can his car hold out for that final 10th of a mile? It will. Dezhao comes off at turn 4 to take his first win since 2009. Dezhao made his way up through the field quite convincingly and got into the winner's circle with an opportunistic move on Bobby Porto, who was sent back to 3rd place. Ryan Matthews, Lucy Barnton, and Lenore Scurry got some badly needed top 5s. Kevin Monroe rallied back to finish 6th, although he was the first car 1 lap down. And again, we have quite the list of cars that went out of the race. Taylor Brillen finished in last place, but she picked up 6 bonus points for winning the pole and leading a few laps. I do wonder if this race is going to be an indication of how Bowman Gray is going to go later on in the season. That's going to be another one of the flat short tracks, as Taylor Brillen now leads by just 25 points over Ritt Tyler, who moves up into 2nd place with his win. This championship is most certainly not over yet. Jim Hayes continues to lead the Rookie of the Year standings over Andre Kinasa. You saw that Harry Enola made his way up to 9th with his 2nd win in a row. Bobby Porteau, despite that disappointing end to the race, is still making his way up through the standings. He's up to 19th. Ramsey Cockiner 20th in points after his good finish. We have a 3-way tie for 27th between Richard Scott, Kyle Gaffigan, and Lucy Barnton. They are all 215 points behind the leader. The 7 card for Gravity Racing, shared by Zach Gott and Eric Jackson, are a very disappointing 32nd, while their teammate Rachel Rainsford enjoys a 3rd place run in the championship. Robert Nelson and Kelly Posadas are 38th and 40th respectively, despite not running all of the races.